Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Scottsdale Living Podcast. I have a great guest on today, Dr. Jesse Greer of Preamble. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. What is Preamble?
We primarily focus on taking preventative health to the next level. And so the way people look at healthcare now, it really starts once a disease begins and happens, so all of our spending, all of our attention goes towards diseases once they happen, and then it's kind of considered healthcare. But the truth of it is, it's how we were treating our bodies, how we were living our lives, the decades before we get sick, which was actually the important stuff, right? Our lifestyle. So a preamble is that piece of those older formal documents that resides at the beginning that spells out that ground truth, the context for which we're all about to kind of dive into a deep summary, right? So the fact that the type of medicine that we're interested in practicing is that context of the stuff that really matters. It's that base level of healthcare. It gets completely ignored in today's model.
So it's the what you're putting in instead of what you're getting out of medicine.
Yeah, I mean it's that ground truth of what your health is for the majority of your life before you start getting sick in your older years. It's your lifestyle. I mean it's nothing new. We've got a great practice and we make everything look pretty. We give very detailed insights into what these key aspects of your health really looks like. But the results, the actions that you have to do to correct all these things are age old. It's the beginning of time. We're addressing a very old question, and I usually find that those old questions tend to have very old answers, and it's the majority of how we live.
Awesome. So, Dr. Greer, where is your office actually located?
We're on Craftsman Court in Old Town Scottsdale. Okay. Kind of right in between 3rd and 5th Avenue by the 5th Avenue shops.
Super close.
Yeah, very close.
Walking distance.
It is. I was super happy when I got out of the military and we moved back here and we're looking at places and saw Old Town Scottsdale. I was actually born right down the street. And when I was little, I remember coming to my mom's work. She used to wait tables over at the Grapevine.
Yeah.
So I was gone for so many years. It just kind of tickled me that we were putting our office back and, where everything started.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is really fantastic. It's always nice when you meet people who've actually grown up here. Because it's like fewer and far between now.
Yeah, it is. You meet maybe a few more, but when I was growing up here, there was, definitely no Cardinals fans. Everybody was from somewhere else. So every time you go to a football game, they were like home games for the other team. But depending on how they're doing, it's a little bit better now sometimes.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
Something really unique about you is that you also served in our military and you're a Green Beret.
Yes.
So tell us, when did you join? And did you know that you were going to become a Green Beret?
No, I didn't.
Was that a goal?
When I joined right out of college. So, this was right at the time of right after 9/11. We were starting the Iraq War too in 2003. I'm sorry. But it was right when I was finishing up college, and just really it was kind of depressing to see guys younger than me going to serve their country, and I'm sitting at some daiquiri bar in Miami for spring break or something like that. Kind of really highlighted the luxury of life that I had, and so I just really wanted to go into the military. I really was interested in special forces, but I was also interested in going into medicine, so I actually found out that the military has their own medical school. It's an MD program out in Bethesda, Maryland. Applied to that and got in. And I said, you know what, maybe this will be a good kind of mix, join the military and do medicine there. But I did not think I was going to be a Green Beret at that time. I just was kind of focused on getting through medical school, but as you go through medical school, and I did my residency at Walter Reed, you kind of have this option. You can either go further on in your training, you can do, or you can work in hospitals, or you can actually go out to the Army and serve as a doctor there.
Like in the field.
Yeah, in the field. Mm-hmm. So the 101st Airborne needs a bunch of doctors to train their medics and make sure that their units are healthy and, tell everybody to wash their hands and stay hydrated and give recommendations to the commander on how to think about military aspects of military campaigns and things like that. And that just seemed pretty interesting. I was like, I was looking to get out into the real world, get out of the hospital, get out of academia and see kind of how all this stuff works. And, you know, when you're doing that type of stuff and you're that age, I was just interested in doing it more with the, I guess the cool guys in the Army, you know? So, managed to snake an entry-level job as a trauma doctor on a small 8-man team. You know, we went to Afghanistan, Central Africa,
Wow.
out in the middle of nowhere, you know, just me and a few combat medics and, you know, a trauma nurse. And, you know, we would be, you know, thousands of miles from anywhere, in the middle of the jungle, you know, dealing with gunshot wounds and really putting this stuff into practice. And, you know, I loved it. That was when I kind of was like, okay, I figured out what I should be doing at this time. And I just got lucky enough to get an opportunity to try out for the Special Forces, which was just a 3-week program, you know, with really no military experience before that. So I was just kind of happy to go and try that out. And at least I could say I tried it and see what those guys have to go through. But, you know, I was lucky enough to make it through. And then I spent another year and a half actually going through the Special Forces qualification course, becoming an 18 Alpha, which is a Special Forces officer. And then I went and served as a battalion surgeon or like a unit doctor for 7 Special Forces group for like those last 5 years.
Wow. My whole family's military. So thanks for taking care of everyone, that everyone's family members need that kind of care. And it's beyond brave, but, you know, just such an incredible service to be able to do that for our U.S. military. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. I got more out of it than, you know, anybody else. So I was happy to do it.
That's so cool. So you serve and then you're like, I have to be able to do something else in medicine now. And that turned into Preamble directly.
Well, yeah, I mean, really it's those last 4 or 5 years that I spent with the Special Forces where, you know, we were gone a lot, but we were also back in unit a lot. And that's when you're seeing a lot of guys who've been at war for 10, 20 years and just a lot of problems starting to build up. You know?
So were you back at Walter Reed then?
No, I was a doctor for the Special Forces unit. We were out in Florida.
Okay.
You know, but we have 4 companies and, you know, they're deploying back and forth all the time between Florida and Afghanistan. And, you know, these are guys who'd been on rapid, you know, continuous deployments over the last, you know, 15 years. I mean, depending on how long they've been in. We've been
My brother-in-law's combat control for the Air Force. He just retired a year and a half ago, career. And like, just, you know, hearing a phone call where he's like, yeah, I've been out in the field for 36 hours and the absolute just work. They're constantly on.
Yep.
They're constantly on. Sleep is super important. All of their health, everything has to be just absolutely optimal.
That's right. And so it was pretty easy when that's, you know, to falter when that stuff started to fall. And, you know, that's what we discovered. We saw that a lot of these guys had a lot of traumatic brain injuries and it was disrupting their hormonal axes in their brain, you know, leading to depression. I mean, people stop working out. They start actually developing, you know, metabolic disease, like the typical, you know, overweight American, developing sleep apnea and just these downward spirals. And then just, you know, obviously really manifesting in their mental health. So, you know, that's when I really got interested in like, what the hell can we actually do for these guys? Because we had a couple therapies, we would max those out and, you know, they were okay. And some people will get temporary benefit, but you just still find yourself coming back to these same things. But we started running these, you know, extensive blood work panels on folks and finding these like really, really obnoxious hormone abnormalities, tons of inflammation, like the starting signs of insulin resistance. And
wow.
But, you know, we had so many resources. So this isn't very typical of military medicine. We were able to kind of do this. So apologies to anybody else who, you know, was in the military and didn't have a good experience with the medical system. This was a little bit more concentrated, but, you know, we had our own exercise therapy folks or, you know, our trainers. I mean, it was like a college football team. We had an amazing gym and these trainers. We had nutritionists.
For optimal function. Like we need to keep these guys going at peak performance.
That's right.
Whatever it takes.
So when they come into work, you know, the part of their job then is to like implement these exercise nutrition programs, start correcting hormones, start putting folks on the right supplement and leaning into their sleep. And I mean, the improvement we got on these guys, watching the life come back into their eyes, seeing them re-engage with their families. And you just go, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is, you know, it felt good then, but, you know, it really didn't dawn on how great it was until I left the service and started working at Banner University. And you just see how shitty the system is. I'm sorry for for cussing, but you see how crappy the system is. And, you see that nothing is set up to help these people moving forward. And in fact, it was probably decades of healthcare that was failing them before that. And, it was rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And I was there for 2 months.
Wow.
And before I was just like, no, this is not right. And that's when I was like, oh, why don't I just go back to doing what I was doing in the Army and kind of to see if I can't bring this out to the rest of the world. And that's really what we're trying to do with Preamble. That's what we've done.
Wow. What a big mission. Like with such a good purpose. And you think about people don't really think of themselves as needing to perform so optimally, maybe because they don't think that their goals for today are as big, as somebody like that serves a purpose in the military. But that's just not true, because you're serving yourself in the future. You're serving yourself at 60. You're serving yourself at 80 by doing something now about that. So that's amazing. So what does your day look like? You're a busy doctor now. You have this office in Old Town. What does it look like?
Yeah. It's maybe a lot busier than it should be, since we're still in the newer stages of this. So, a lot of it is kind of business degree 101 of learning how to put all this stuff together, coordinate it, so it doesn't look so messy when it reaches patients. And these are not just the medical things, right?
Yeah. Sometimes when we're providing care in an organization, we don't really see how much back end stuff there is.
No.
When it is your responsibility and you're like, whoa, there was like a team of 20 people that did this. I don't even know their names, but now that's my job too.
Yeah.
So there's a learning curve involved. There's a lot of this is a system. This is a system. Now we plug them all in.
That's right. So there's a lot of those kind of growing pains, and but also with seeing patients as well. We've had to put a hold on the patients that we're taking for now, just because we grew a lot quicker than we thought we were going to. And what we do is pretty comprehensive, so it does kind of take a lot of talking, a lot of effort. So it's seeing patients in the morning. We like people to come in if they're getting their initial assessments with us. It's the best time to draw blood on them and measure their body composition and do all that stuff and just kind of start them on those journeys. And then usually in the afternoon, we're having reviews with folks who have already kind of gone through our, before you get an assessment, it's a couple week period. So, people are starting to get all their testing, their continuous glucose monitor results are coming in. So we're able to kind of actually define where they stand with their metabolic health a little bit better. And then we're reviewing these health intelligence reports, which is, what we deliver, right? Which is, there's so much cool stuff out there. There's so much cool testing. It delivers all this crazy data, and they will happily just dump it in your lap and say, here you go, right?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do with 10,000 pieces of data? And can somebody interpret this for me? What does this mean as far as my individual risk of heart disease, say, right? So, being able to put that together and then present it back to people, to give them this clear picture of where they stand. And then in the afternoon, we'll start with the people who've already done that or who have received their health intelligence report, digested it, and started kind of thinking about how they're going to work with us to implement these plans. And then I will sit down with those folks and we'll do an hour strategy build, right? Of where they're at in their life, where they need to move as far as their exercise and their nutrition, and really just kind of lay out our initial attack plan for that. And then, get more into the actual tactics of it and, what supplements, medications, and things like that to take, and how we're going to track them through the coming months to make sure that they're on track or adjust as we need to. And, and see them when they come back in 4 or 6 months for checkups to see how the blood work's doing.
Total aside, but you mentioned continuous glucose monitors, like a little sticker goes on your arm, measures blood sugar all day long and all night.
Yeah.
Why don't they have that for cortisol?
Yeah. It's a great point.
It degrades, the test degrades. You draw the blood, it can degrade on the way to the lab. You're not testing it immediately. And especially, I just don't understand why that does not exist yet. We keep you go to your doctor and they're like, you need to control your stress levels. Well, you work with people that they can't. This is the job. And then we wonder why they have metabolic disease on the back end, why they have sleep issues.
Yeah.
It's not just the experience of what they've experienced. It's also this cortisol hangover and the drop. And now we have unproductive cortisol levels that come from a desk job that's a completely different, almost non-productive form of stress, where they might be responding the same way they did when they were overseas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
You take it home, you take it everywhere.
I think it's I hope, hopefully it's just a technical issue at this point, and it's coming soon because, I hear
Me too. I want to wear one.
I hear about patches coming out all the time that measure like a bunch of stuff that's not really nearly as interesting as that. But, if you think about it, like the way that the continuous glucose monitor is sometimes helpful, right? Especially one thing, and I don't like to keep it on people for a lot, but it's good just for kind of some behavioral, like some recognition of if you've got that on your arm, and what we'd like to do is like, we'll set the alarm kind of low for a few days, maybe like, to like 140, right? So that when your blood sugar starts getting up into that problem area, it beeps immediately. And then you can tie that back to whatever you just ate, right? So it's an immediate recognition. So if you were doing that with cortisol, that'd be super interesting, right? Because
I don't want to wear one.
Well, yeah, but also maybe it would be able to, show you like, hey, well, yeah, but I'm upset about this interaction that happened there. Maybe this is a good time to bring in some breathing techniques or some way to really, if you're actually just more aware of it. I mean, even full of crap, but it sounds like it could be super useful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You. Yeah. And just like how you perform during the day and seeing how it fluctuates.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'm going to switch businesses now. So we should change the podcast now to my new
Let's
cortisol.
Do it. All right, start over.
Continuous monitor. Yeah.
Okay, so Preamble was born. It exists. You're in Old Town. Is there anything else that's super unique about your business that you're like, this is our model, this is how we do it, and this is why we have to do it this way?
Well, yeah. Look, people kind of they pay a bunch for their health insurance, and just mentally, that's kind of where they allocate all their healthcare spending. And when you go there and you talk to a PCM, I mean, if you're really lucky and you got one that's kind of into this, he may be willing to, or she may be willing to order you some extra tests or these things. Hey, I read about this. I was listening to Huberman and I would like to get this test, So a good chunk of them are going to be like, yeah, you don't need that, and it's mainly because it's going to be a hassle for them to order it. Two, you're going to get charged for these things because your insurance is, and then you're going to call the office complaining. And so it's easier for them just not to, right? So, and most of this stuff really isn't on the menu. But what's different about us is that even if they did that stuff, the typical tests that you get for preventative screening right now are just so archaic. I mean, they were great when they came out like 30 years ago, but they're the best tools for measuring the health of hundreds of millions of people, right?
And they're inexpensive.
Yeah,
that's why they use them.
That's right.
Like, yeah, everybody can get an X-ray, but you can't get an MRI without approval.
Yeah.
Like pre-approval, because it's more expensive.
Yes.
An ultrasound test is really inexpensive. But as soon as we have to get into higher level imaging or biopsy or whatever it is, like now it costs money. So why would I want to pay that out on every single person? Yeah. So yeah, insurance has a purpose.
It does.
But it is not for optimal health.
No.
It's to catch things when you have an extreme event in health.
Yeah.
That you otherwise could not afford.
Yeah. Or you develop some chronic condition that kind of keeps you in and out of the hospital, moving forward from there. Yeah. Or work. But so, I mean, yeah. So in anyways, the level of insight that you get from your primary care doctor is it's just bad. And people, with means or just for the heck of it, like to get some of these executive physicals, high level executive physicals. And I think some of those can be good, but a lot of them are pretty old. They've been raking in $10,000-$15,000 for every executive physical they do, but they hook you up to every machine possible. So it seems like you got a good deal, but really maybe not looking at the things that tell you the most about your health. So we've kind of reimagined that executive physical with the technology and all this development that we have these days, that stuff does not need to cost $10,000-$15,000 for that. And there should be some cooler, like better, more informative tests in there.
Yeah.
And so look, that's what we start off with. And that's kind of this big differentiator of getting this honest picture of where it stands. And then somebody willing to work with you to, optimize your health span, right? Not just how long you live, but I mean, you need to be having quality years throughout that. And sometimes that's not, prescription medicine, it's more, more holistic type stuff.
I love that because, well, I just look at medication as like the easiest form of anything that we can do. And unfortunately, in the US, we are a pharmaceutical nation.
Yes.
I think I read something like the US consumes 90% of the world's pharmaceuticals, something outrageous like that. Don't quote me on it, but it was a number in the 90%. And that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like big pharma is so big here, but yet we have so much disease here.
Well, yeah. I mean, the impressive stuff is those numbers about how much money is being spent on Ozempic. And America,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
we're like the most obese nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's an obesity epidemic.
Yeah.
So of course, anything that helps you lose weight will be a top seller.
Yeah, but I think we they almost like added a third of Denmark's GDP. Just overnight added that. People use it so much, it's reducing food intake. That the projections of like how much food needs to be shipped year after year is thought to be dropping because of
shifting the needle.
Yeah, that big of an economic impact from that much use of a drug that just came out a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is mind blowing. Holy cow. Yeah, because you're like, how many other industries are going to fight something like that? Well, and Ozempic is still so new that it's not like we have all these giant 10-year meta-analyses about like, people are just like, oh, well, when my nails don't feel as good and my hair starts thinning because I've been on it too long, then I'll stop, because they don't really, it has a purpose.
Yeah.
Has a timeline. It's for accelerated weight loss, but it also is a metabolic procedure that's being disrupted. Right.
Mm-hmm. So nothing comes for free.
Right? Oh, yes.
I mean, have I seen long-term studies? No, but I know the way the world works,
mm-hmm.
and there's some debt that needs to be paid somewhere, right? So unless it was from the person, taking that as a jump start and starting to implement the right, exercise and nutrition strategies that are going to push this further out, that price is going to be paid, usually in muscle mass, right?
Bone density.
Yeah, bone density.
Like we might have like an entire male and female epidemic of, osteoporosis and osteopenia in 10 years.
Yeah.
Like people getting it really early. We've seen that in some of the hormone studies,
mm-hmm.
That the last like 5-10 years have really kind of popped up with, young people on hormones. And so it's just really fascinating to see what will come of it. But you're right. Nothing comes without a cost.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, absolutely inspirational. I love your story. I love the story of your company. It sounds like you guys are doing really fantastic things. And how do people get a hold of you? Is there anything else that you really want to make sure? Who's your ideal client? That would be a good one.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, it ranges, but I think, just for high level purposes, it's folks in their, late 30s, in their 40s, into their 50s, folks who maybe were, athletes or in shape at an early point in their life, and, got busy with kids, a life, chasing a career. Next thing you know, you wake up, you're, 40, 43 and starting to look a little bit more like your dad. And,
I'm going to do that at 43.
Or whoever it is that, was kind of the picture of letting themselves go, and still have a lot of great preventative years ahead of them. Right. Mm-hmm. And these are these critical times. And right when you're starting to take that turn for where that disease starts to accumulate, it's that maybe having kids, you start to get some, bigger insight to your mortality, and you're ready to take your head out of the sand, mm-hmm. and do something about it, because you don't get too many things that you can really care about. You have to really care about this, right? Because it's not easy. So it's not just something that you can want to do. That's what it is for the majority of the time, until you're kind of ready to take that step. So people that are really ready to take that step, then that's in these positions, that's who we kind of find we benefit the most. There's folks that are already really into this and kind of do all the biohacking type stuff, and we definitely don't mm-hmm. push that on people who are just trying to get their health better. You can only concentrate on that so much, but the people that are really into it, I actually even get they really love the program, because they just get to nerd out and go as far as they want to. Getting full body MRI scans, or some of the liquid biopsy tests that we'll do. Or
my friend Jen was just talking about that, the full body MRI. She's like, I'm going to go to Vegas so I can get this thing. So people can do that here.
Yeah, they can do it here. I mean, it's easier to do it in California. They need some better. They need some better partners in the area to get access to some of these cool AI softwares that are laying on top of these traditional
MRI machines.
Yeah, MRI machines.
Okay.
Yeah, like I just did a CT angiogram of my heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
To with dye, and I did it at one of the local Simon Meds, but they do it through a company called Clearly, and I don't have any affiliation with them or anything like that. But what they do is they take your images and run it through this AI software and just show you these great 3D pictures of your coronary vessels. And, they injected dye at the time. So they get this really detailed look at, the lumen of your, like the size of the vessel and how clear it is, how patent it is. And they'll show you what this is really good for is the traditional calcium scores that people get to look for calcium in their heart. It misses all the soft plaque, right? It tells you if you have old hardened plaque, but this stuff actually looks for soft plaque. So, somebody like myself who has a calcium score at 0, I was able to do this and actually see a very small portion of soft plaque starting to develop in a portion of my main coronary artery. And it's very, very small. And the thing is like still 97, 98% open.
Well, good job.
Well, thank you. But then you go, oh, well, crap, that's there now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that just reinforces how important mitigating those risk factors are to leave that in its spot,
Yeah. Cardiovascular disease is a leading cause of death in the United States.
Yeah.
It's really important. Nobody wants to go get these tests done, but it is really important to kind of understand because, again, you're just looking at risk factor. And then every time I go eat something that's terrible for me and I feel stressed out and then I all of a sudden want to go do something else, it's really important that I understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what the risk or benefit of not doing that is.
Yeah, that's right. And some people come in and their cholesterol is abysmal or their inflammation. And I know cholesterol is very, very hot topic.
Button,
the hot button. But and fair enough. I'm not here to convince somebody one way or the other. I can give you my opinion on it. But somebody has horrible cholesterol and they don't want to take statins. Very controversial subject. Okay, great. But we should also maybe know what your vessels look like, because some people do live to be 95 with god awful cholesterol, and I wouldn't have wanted to start that lady on a statin, like shoot, that was obviously, her body was perfect. You didn't need to mess with it. But if you look inside somebody's coronary arteries and this disease is kind of starting, then you're just like, well, you're not the lucky, person who's going to live to 95 with that bad of risk factors. So sometimes it's good to know that too.
Yeah. And to teach people when I know I have somebody who has some of these risk factors or has had some kind of event, even a small one, it's really important that they understand all the initial signs and symptoms of when they actually need to go in, when they're starting to notice some kind of change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we need to get further testing or assessment done. We're going to have you go see so-and-so, and how urgent that is to them. Like, when do you actually call 911? That's one thing.
Yeah.
But like, when do we start saying, oh, okay, this is something and you need to go in and you need to get that checked out? I don't do anything with medication. I'm a physical therapist. So it is all on these little risk factors. I had a patient with back pain that really had kidney failure. I was a student. I'm like, and I'm asking to my mentor, what do you think about this? I feel like something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And listening to those red flags and getting that person in at the right time. He didn't know he had that either. So, we're just kind of making sure we have all these system checks, and that's definitely your job. And you as a patient, as the person living this life, I have to be able to actually be willing to walk in and say, what are the changes I need to make? I'm here for that.
Yes.
And that's a big step.
It is a big step.
It's different than just going in for your annual physical.
No,
if you even did that.
No, you're definitely heeding a call to action.
Mm-hmm.
You're crossing over a threshold and doing it. So yeah, that's a lot different. And and sometimes people just come to get the big initial assessment just to see where they lie and see whether they're ready to take that next step or not. I think that's important because I think there's actually there's some risk factors out there that are prevalent and 20% of the population of just these silent, really risky levels of cholesterol or some other strong risk factor that puts you at a much stronger predisposition of disease than you would never know. So those are good things to get checked out too. Just even some of these are one-time screenings just to know. I mean, that's what we're providing, right? Nobody's coming after anybody. Nobody's going to chase you down to save your life. Nobody's going to chase you down to make sure that you're getting fit, that you're getting healthy, right? So, I mean, yeah, you have to save yourself. But you need a navigator, you need a guide, you need some help with it, right? And that's what we're hoping to do.
Dr. Greer, how do people find you?
Yeah, it's easiest to find us on the web, World Wide Web, preamble.co. They can sign up there, and we'll be taking new patients at the beginning of the year.
Thank you so much for tuning in. That's been your episode of the Scottsdale Living Podcast.